Viagra might be destroying you from the inside. There is a hidden protocol that can naturally reactivate your erections, but it holds a dangerous limit that no one dares to reveal. If you don't know this red line, you could lose everything. But if you follow it correctly, you could regain your power in just a few days. I am Dr. Ana Esperanza, a physician specializing in men's and vascular health, and I have spent years studying what truly happens inside a man's body when erectile function begins to fail. What I discovered is a secret code that awakens your own nitric oxide without the side effects of the little blue pill. Comment now. I want the protocol, because only those who stay until the end will discover the truth about the secret limit that separates recovery from total collapse. Most men believe erectile dysfunction is nothing more than a mechanical failure, a drop in testosterone, or a psychological block. But that is the first great lie. The truth is far darker. An erection is a vascular thermometer. When it fails, the body is whispering a warning that something much bigger and much deadlier is already underway. Many ignore it. Others hide behind the blue pill. But almost no one realizes that this intimate struggle is often the prelude to a heart attack or a stroke. Picture the story of a 55-year-old man. To the outside world, he seemed fine. Steady job, respectable lifestyle, nothing alarming. But behind closed doors, he relied heavily on the blue pill. For a while it worked. He fooled his wife, he fooled himself. But then, one night, he collapsed, clutching his chest as though it were burning from the inside. His lips turned pale, his breathing shallow, and within minutes, his life was slipping away. The doctors told his devastated family the truth. The disease had been corroding his arteries for years. The first alarm had rung long ago, each time his erection failed. But he ignored it, silenced it with pills, and the price was his own life. The true conductor of the erection is not testosterone nor desire. It is a silent, invisible molecule called nitric oxide. This tiny gas relaxes the arteries, widens the pathways, and allows blood to surge where it's needed most. Without nitric oxide, the show doesn't even begin. At 20 years old, your body is brimming with it, a full 100% capacity. By your 30s, you're already down to 85%. In your 40s, it slips to 70%. At 50, you barely manage 55%. And by 60 years old, you're surviving on just 25%. The once roaring fire of youth is reduced to a fragile ember, trembling on the edge of extinction. This decline is not just numbers on a chart. It is the slow suffocation of your vitality. Imagine a river that once overflowed with life, reduced to a trickling stream. Imagine steel pipes rusting from the inside, until water can no longer flow freely. That is your vascular system. That is your erection. It is at this breaking point that most men turn to the so-called magic solution, Viagra. But here's the truth no one tells you. Viagra does not create nitric oxide, not a single molecule. It simply prevents the little you still have from being destroyed too quickly. It is like lending oxygen to a drowning man. You might buy him a few more minutes, but you cannot stop the water from rising. And every pact comes with a price. The side effects, buried in small print, are monstrous in real life. Headaches that feel like knives twisting behind the eyes, a constant facial flush that makes every conversation uncomfortable, vision warped, the world tinted in shades of blue, sudden drops in blood pressure that leave you weak and dizzy, and in darker cases, hearing loss, priapism, painful, prolonged erections that literally tear penile tissue apart, and the cruelest of all, sudden heart attack or stroke. It's no wonder doctors rarely talk about long-term use. They know the truth. For many men, the blue pill is a loaded revolver pressed against their chest. But there is another way, a path hidden in plain sight, ignored by conventional medicine because it doesn't generate billions. A path that reawakens the natural nitric oxide still inside you, not with synthetic shortcuts, but by reviving what time and bad choices have tried to silence. The first step begins with something deceptively simple: nitrate-rich foods, beets and arugula, humble vegetables with extraordinary power. Research shows they can raise nitric oxide levels by up to 200%. Picture this: a glass of deep crimson beet juice in the morning, flooding your system with raw material for nitric oxide. A salad of peppery arugula at lunch, amplifying the signal further. Together they form a vascular elixir, restoring what decades of neglect tried to erase. Then comes L-citrulline, an amino acid most men have never heard of. Unlike L-arginine, which the liver chews up too quickly, Citrulline slips through the system, gradually transforming into arginine and then into nitric oxide. The result: hours of steady, reliable flow. Taken twice a day, morning and evening. It primes your body, keeping you ready. But beware, too much nitric oxide becomes toxic, suppressing testosterone and hastening breakdown. That's why I call this a clandestine protocol. It works, but only if you respect the invisible line. The third pillar is exercise, but not the kind you think. Endless marathons, hours on the treadmill, they raise cortisol, shred muscle, and leave you weaker. What you need are short bursts of intensity, resistance training, interval sprints, high-effort sets. Just one session can double your nitric oxide levels for hours. Do it consistently, and you retrain your body to respond. At the same time, these workouts crush another hidden saboteur, insulin resistance, which you'll soon discover is the real puppet master behind erectile dysfunction. But nitric oxide is not only built in the gym. There is another switch, hidden, overlooked, in the way you breathe. Nasal breathing. It sounds trivial, but it is the direct gateway to the parasympathetic nervous system, the true on-off switch of arousal. Stress locks you into fight or flight, where erections cannot exist. Nasal breathing pulls you back into rest and digest. Every slow inhale through your nose triggers nitric oxide release into your airways, spreading into your blood, opening your vessels. Each breath is a secret code unlocking a closed door inside your body. And yet, just as there are builders, there are destroyers. The enemies that tear down silently, day by day. Alcohol, the supposed relaxant, is a poison to the endothelium, corroding the very cells meant to dilate your arteries. Sleep deprivation, a badge of pride for overworked men, robs you of nightly nitric oxide restoration. Each restless night is years of vitality stolen in silence. Smoking with every puff suffocates your arteries, coating them with tar, strangling their ability to carry life. And the most insidious of all, refined seed oils, sunflower, soybean, canola, hiding in everything you eat, weaving themselves into your arteries, inflaming them, rusting them from within like invisible poison. This is the first rung of the clandestine protocol, rekindling the flame time tried to extinguish, awakening the nitric oxide that never left you, but was smothered by years of indulgence and corrosive choices. But before you get carried away, I need to warn you. This is only the surface, because there is another enemy, more subtle, more silent, and far deadlier. A saboteur living deep inside your metabolism, capable of destroying every effort you make. You could drown yourself in beats, breathe like a monk, train like a gladiator, and still fail. That saboteur is not in your desire. It is not in your hormones. It lives elsewhere. The most treacherous enemy of erection is not low testosterone or lack of desire. The true saboteur is invisible, silent, and lives deep in the metabolism, insulin resistance. It doesn't crash in suddenly. It creeps in quietly, while you repeat the same rituals every day. Bread for breakfast, soda at lunch, dessert at night. For years, nothing seems wrong. But slowly, the machinery jams. Insulin shouts orders, and your cells ignore them. Glucose drifts through your blood like shards of glass, scratching the endothelium, irritating arteries, inflaming tissue that should remain elastic and alive. And where there is inflammation, nitric oxide vanishes. The molecule that once flung open the gates now flickers out, leaving behind a frail trickle of blood, incapable of sustaining the intimacy you crave. That's why erectile dysfunction is so often the whisper before the storm. The man who ignores it, masking the symptom with pills, only delays the inevitable. The little blue pill extends the lifespan of the meager nitric oxide left, but it does not create life where everything is dying. In an inflamed body, this artificial crutch may push the system closer to collapse. A sudden drop in blood pressure here, an arrhythmia there, a chest pain that warns, and then delivers. The cruel logic is simple. When the foundation is cracked, any extra weight accelerates the collapse. Breaking this cycle demands both radical action and calm precision. You must remove the saboteur's fuel, eliminate sugar, the obvious kinds and the ones that hide under polite names. Cut the flours, the white rice, the sweetened drinks, the liquid calories that slide in unnoticed. Do it long enough, and the flames begin to die down. But a body injured for years cannot be rebuilt in a single gesture. It needs quiet allies, small keys that unlock rusted locks. Zinc, for example, supports testosterone, and restores the dialogue between insulin and cells. The B vitamins are like silent workers in the nitric oxide factory. Without them, the assembly line grinds to a halt. Vitamin D acts as a vascular beacon. When levels rise, blood vessels remember how to relax again. And omega-3s, especially when paired with vitamins A and D, extinguish the smoldering embers left by seed oils, cooling the body's silent inflammation. Meanwhile, the body must relearn its most basic task, directing blood where it's needed and holding it there. Strengthening the pelvic floor may sound trivial, but it is intimate engineering. Training those deep, neglected muscles increases local pressure, enhances venous closure, and sustains erections with less effort. Clinical studies show a significant percentage of men regain normal function through this practice alone, while many more report noticeable improvement. No magic, no marketing, only repetition, patience, and the uncanny feeling of reclaiming an instrument you thought was gone forever. Cold exposure is another harsh but powerful lesson from nature. Immersed in freezing water, your blood vessels contract, expel waste, then, like a gasp of relief, rebound with even greater dilation. This cycle, brief and controlled, acts like a merciless drill sergeant, retraining your arteries to respond. It is uncomfortable, yes. The body protests, the skin burns, the breath races, and yet, hidden in the pain is the key. Mastering chaos through your own breath, breathing slowly, through your nose while the cold bites, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the true ruler of arousal. The sympathetic fight-or-flight response retreats. Nitric oxide returns to duty, and circulation awakens. There are stories whispered in hallways that rarely make it to daylight. One is about a man I will call R. For years, he collected failures, pills, injections, even experimental surgeries. Nothing worked. He arrived exhausted, mistrustful, begging for one last chance. A sleep study revealed what the daylight hid: fragmented nights, noisy breathing, micro-awakenings every few minutes. His body never entered the stage of repair, never rebuilt its nitric oxide reserves. R accepted a protocol so insultingly simple it sounded like a joke. Strict bedtimes, a room as dark as a cave, cool temperature, no screens, pink noise to calm his brain, and rigid discipline. For weeks, nothing seemed to change. The temptation to quit barked at his door every night. Until one morning, out of nowhere, he woke up with an erection he hadn't seen in nearly a decade. 2 weeks later, another. After a month, they became frequent. His tests showed lower inflammation, better insulin sensitivity, signs of an endothelium remembering its craft. But then R made a familiar mistake. He tried to accelerate. He pushed harder, cut oxygen too much at night, stacked supplement upon supplement as if trying to build a miracle on top of a miracle. The body responded with cruelty. Testosterone plummeted, inflammation soared, sleep fractured again, and his newfound erections faded into the dark. What had worked because it was respected. What failed because impatience demanded more than physiology could give. He crossed the line, and the body made him pay. This same line exists in exercise. You already know marathons are not the way. They spike cortisol, strip muscle, and fry the nervous system raw. What matters is intensity with intelligence, intervals that provoke vessels without breaking them, resistance that reawakens dormant fibers, compound movements that recruit the body as a whole. Done right, a single session can double nitric oxide availability for hours, creating a window that, repeated week after week, retrains your system. Done wrong, that same session becomes a hammer, smashing what you were trying to rebuild. And let's not forget the everyday saboteurs, the little pleasures that carve your epitaph in silence. Alcohol, consumed to relax, dissolves the endothelium and steals elasticity from your vessels. Smoking coats arteries with tar they can never wash away. Refined seed oils, sunflower, soybean, corn, infiltrate cell membranes, making them fragile, flammable. Short, restless sleep, the pride of overworked men, drains your nitric oxide reserves night after night. No protocol can withstand such a daily siege. It is a game only won by changing the board entirely. Perhaps you're thinking this is too slow, that you don't have time, that you need results yesterday. That's exactly when most men stumble. They chase bottles of promises, powders, capsules, drops that swear to mimic Viagra without its shadow. And yes, Some of these substances do have intriguing mechanisms: leaves that block enzymes, roots that boost nitric oxide, spices that stir neurotransmitters. In a prepared body, they may be the spark that lights the fire. In a weakened body, they are gasoline poured over damp wood. Smoke, but no flame. See how the pieces line up? The sugar you cut today makes space for citrulline to work tomorrow. The cold that bites your skin today trains your vessels to respond this weekend. The pink noise that calms your brain tonight delivers a deposit of nitric oxide by morning. And yet, all of it can collapse from a single reckless choice, a step too far beyond the line. Now you understand why I call insulin resistance the silent saboteur. It feeds on excess and thrives on extremes. But there is another danger, hidden deeper, cloaked in the word natural. Substances marketed as safe imitations of the blue pill. When used wisely, they can push open the same door. But when abused, they demand the same payment, sometimes an even higher price. And that's where many men fall. They trust blindly in the word natural, careless with dose, timing, context. By the time they realize their mistake, the fire has already reached the support beams. The next step is not piling on more substances. It is learning to see the invisible line, the secret boundary that separates recovery from collapse. And it's that line I'm going to reveal to you next. By now, you've seen it. The pharmaceutical industry built an empire on one single idea, keeping alive the little nitric oxide left in your body. The blue pill is nothing more than a temporary guard, protecting the molecule from breaking down for a few hours. That's all. Meanwhile, your body continues to wither. The flame continues to die, and you're left with an illusion of power, not the real thing. That's why, in the shadows, so-called natural versions of Viagra began to circulate. Roots, leaves, flowers, and extracts sold as secret elixirs, promising the same effect, but without side effects. The word natural shines, attracts, seduces, and many men, tired of doctors and drugs, rush toward these promises. The problem? Not everything that grows from the ground is safe. In some cases, the price can be even higher than the blue pill itself. Take the infamous epimedium, better known as horny goat weed. Studies show it contains a compound that inhibits the same enzyme targeted by Viagra, PDE5. In theory, that means more nitric oxide, more blood flow, more power. But here's the shadow. The body doesn't absorb it well. Most of it is wasted, and desperate men push the dose higher and higher to feel something. That's where danger lurks. In excess, epimedium can destabilize blood pressure, strain the liver, trigger heart palpitations, and since it's sold without regulation, purity is uncertain. You never truly know what's entering your bloodstream. Another popular name is red ginseng. Revered in Eastern medicine, it does have real evidence supporting its impact on erectile function. It not only helps preserve nitric oxide, but also reduces vascular inflammation and improves insulin sensitivity. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? But the hidden cost is there. Ginseng stimulates the nervous system. For some, that means sharper energy. For others, it means insomnia, anxiety, and, in unlucky cases, dangerous spikes in blood pressure. In the wrong body, it's a ticking time bomb. Then there's saffron, as valuable as gold in certain cultures. Its strength is not so much in PDE5 inhibition as in its effect on neurotransmitters. It shifts mood, calms anxiety, alters perception of pleasure. For some, it's the missing spark. For others, it's the final push into imbalance. Imagine a man already fragile with stress or depression. The wrong dose can drag him further into the abyss. And then comes ashwagandha, the so-called strength herb. Known as an adaptogen, it helps the body handle stress, lowering cortisol, raising testosterone, boosting tolerance to daily pressure. It also enhances nitric oxide release. Tempting? Yes, but shadows remain. In men with hypothyroidism or autoimmune disease, ashwagandha can worsen the condition. Once again, what looks like medicine becomes poison if the line is crossed. Do you see the pattern? All of these natural allies can work, but only when used with wisdom, context, and balance. Step outside those limits, and they become another chapter in the same tragedy. Desperate men swallowing promises in capsules, clinging to bottled miracles. And the experiments don't stop there. More extreme techniques keep surfacing. Shockwave therapy, for example, claims to break down plaques, stimulate new blood vessels, and restore flow. Futuristic, almost miraculous. But applied to the wrong body, one scarred by fibrosis or long-standing inflammation, it can trigger pain, micro-tears, scars even harder to heal. The same goes for intermittent hypoxia training, which simulates high-altitude oxygen restriction. Done correctly, it encourages new capillaries. Done recklessly, it damages the heart, the brain, even life itself. All these alternatives hide the same truth. There is no solution without cost, no miracle without shadow. Every intervention carries an invisible price, and only those who understand the line between stimulation and excess can pay it without sacrificing health. This is where many men stumble. They stack everything: beet juice, citrulline, high-intensity workouts, nasal breathing, omega-3s, deep sleep, cold showers, ginseng, epimedium, saffron, ashwagandha. They think the more they pile on, the faster they'll regain their lost power. But the body isn't a scoreboard. It's a system of balance. And when you cross the line, what was meant to heal becomes an overload. One patient confessed to me, "Doctor, I'm taking everything I find online. Why am I not getting better?" I answered with a question of my own. "Do you know how far you can go? Do you know your limit?" He said nothing, and in that silence was the answer. His problem wasn't lack of action. It was reckless excess. That is the razor's edge dividing men who recover from those who sink deeper. It's not the blue pill, not the exotic extract, not the ice bath or the extreme workout. It's the understanding of the secret limit, the invisible line that decides when nitric oxide is your ally and when it turns into your enemy, when stimulation rebuilds and when it begins to destroy. That line is not printed on any label. It doesn't appear in ads. It isn't taught in rushed medical consultations. It reveals itself only to those who see the body as a system of balance, not as a vault to be stuffed with endless keys. Now you've seen the truth. The alternatives exist. They can be powerful, but they can also be deadly. The next step is not more substances, more hacks, more shortcuts. The next step is to see the line, because without it, every effort ends in ruin. And it's that invisible law, the golden rule that separates recovery from collapse, that I'm going to reveal to you now. Everything you've heard so far points to a single truth. The power of your erection is not luck, nor magic, nor a pill. It is the direct reflection of your body's inner balance. When that balance collapses, through sugar, insulin resistance, inflammation, vices, and excess, nitric oxide is drained, and your power disappears. When you try to solve it with a pill, you buy a few hours of illusion while stacking years of risk. When you gamble on herbs, roots, or powders without guidance, you may see flashes of improvement, but soon you discover the same thing that heals can also poison. What decides your destiny is not what you use, but how you use it. This is where the golden rule comes in. Nitric oxide is like fire. A small flame lights, warms, protects. A balanced flame nourishes the body, fuels blood flow, restores power and vitality. But a fire out of control burns, destroys, consumes everything. The secret limit is this. You must ignite just enough flame to revive life, never so much that it burns it all to ash. In practice, this means 3 things. 1. Intensity with intelligence. Training should be strong but brief, enough to double nitric oxide and sharpen insulin sensitivity, never enough to drown your body in cortisol and exhaustion. 2. Dosage with respect. Beets, arugula, citrulline, ginseng, ashwagandha, all of them hold power. But every body has a saturation point. More is not better. More is disaster. 3. Daily balance, deep sleep, nasal breathing, cold exposure, abandoning alcohol, cigarettes, and seed oils. These are the silent pillars that sustain the system. Without them, every supplement is wasted. That is the invisible law you'll never see on a label. The line that separates men who reclaim their power from those who collect failure after failure. When you understand that line, you no longer need dangerous shortcuts. You recover confidence, vitality, and most importantly, the certainty that you are not trading your health for a few fleeting hours of performance. Your body begins to respond again, because for the first time in years, you stop fighting it and start working with it. And remember, erectile dysfunction is not an isolated punishment. It is the first whisper of a much larger collapse. Hearing that warning and acting now can not only restore your power, it can save your life. The choice is now in your hands. You can ignore this knowledge, Keep chasing solutions that only mask the problem. Or you can apply the clandestine protocol with intelligence, respecting the secret limit that separates the fire that gives life from the fire that destroys. Comment now, "I want the protocol," and subscribe, because in the next content I will show you how to turn this knowledge into a practical, step-by-step plan, so you never again feel like a prisoner of the little blue pill. The decision is simple: remain in the shadows, or cross the right line and reclaim, once and for all, the power that was always yours.